Cyberpunk 2077 is officially getting a sequel, and this new game is currently codenamed Project Orion by the development team at CD Projekt Red. Cyberpunk Project Orion just got some new details recently about the game's development progress, and I will also go over everything we currently know about this game, including the projected release date, platform availability, game engine that it's being developed on, possible multiplayer aspects, and the projected story details. There was also some other news recently on the multimedia front in the Cyberpunk universe, and it looks like they're planning more animated series in the future after the success of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. But before we get into it, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest gaming news. And feel free to use the timestamps down in the description for your viewing convenience. CD Projekt Red officially confirmed that Cyberpunk 2077 will have a sequel, and it's currently codenamed Project Orion by the development team at CD Projekt Red. Announced during a company update back in October of 2022, this sequel aims to expand the world of Cyberpunk, building on the progress made since the original game's release. Now entering pre-production in 2024, Project Orion promises to be a significant step forward for the Cyberpunk franchise, with the development team set to double in size over the next year. Project Orion is currently transitioning from the research and development phase to pre-production. This follows several years of groundwork, including planning that began in early 2024. The development team working on the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077 currently consists of around 60 people and is expected to double in size by the end of 2025. This expansion of the game's development team reflects CDPR's commitment to making Orion a larger and more ambitious project than its predecessor. The new title will be developed primarily by CDPR's Boston studio, with collaboration from the company's teams in Vancouver and Warsaw. This new Boston studio recently opened and is a key addition to CDPR's global development network, specifically established to handle the Cyberpunk series. Personally, I'm glad they're opening a new studio to focus on the Cyberpunk series because I love the first game, and obviously I want to see more from this franchise without having to wait 15 to 20 years between releases. Maybe Bethesda should take some notes from them. Of course, at this very early stage in the game's development, no official release date for Project Orion has been announced just yet by the studio, and probably won't be for several years, since CDPR has said that they will wait until closer to release to show off their games. Given that the game is just now entering the pre-production phases of development, industry analysts in the gaming industry speculate that the game may not launch until the late 2020s. My hope would also be that around the same time the next console generation starts in probably 2028, and by that time this game will be close to release. The extended timeline in this game's development is very common nowadays for AAA games of this scope, and CDPR has indicated that it will take its time to ensure that the project is fully polished at release. I know we all remember how Cyberpunk was released, and anything to avoid that would be preferable. As soon as the release date or release window is available, CDPR will of course provide updates to the community, and hopefully the new Boston studio they are opening lessens the gap between major releases in the Witcher and Cyberpunk franchises. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the development update and the projected release timeline for Cyberpunk Orion. While no official platform announcements have been made just yet, Project Orion is expected to launch on current gen hardware, including PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC. And given the extended development cycle, it's also possible that the game would be released during the next console generation, depending on when it officially launches. This would mean that it would probably be on the next gen Xbox console, which is currently rumored to be releasing in 2026 if Xbox jumps the generation early, and the PlayStation 6, which is currently speculated to be releasing around 2028. Hopefully, if the studio at CDPR plans to do a cross-generation release for Project Orion like they did with Cyberpunk 2077, the game is ultimately ready and we don't have to experience all the issues that this game had when it was released back in 2020. What is clear, however, is that Project Orion will not be available on last-gen systems like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, since by this time these consoles would have long been obsolete by the new hardware. CD Projekt Red has confirmed that Project Orion will be built using Unreal Engine 5, making a big departure from the company's in-house Red engine which powered Cyberpunk 2077. This change is intended to allow for more robust development tools, better optimization, and the potential for more impressive graphics and world building. They have also said that this new game engine and tools at their disposal for optimization will help root out and fix issues before launch, like the ones that were very apparent in Cyberpunk 2077's release. And if this game is as beautiful as, or even more so than some of the other games made in Unreal Engine 5, then I'm for sure building a new PC when this game finally gets released. The Cyberpunk world in the area of Night City is so amazing, and I'm going to want to experience it at its highest level. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this game's platform availability and the new game engine the game is being developed on. Of course, as of now, it is very unclear whether Project Orion will be a direct sequel to Cyberpunk 2077 or a completely new story set within the Cyberpunk universe. CDPR has been deliberately vague, referring to it as the next game in the Cyberpunk franchise, without confirming any direct narrative continuation. What is certain, however, is that Project Orion will push the Cyberpunk universe further, exploring new stories, characters, and possibly locations. Many speculate that the sequel to this game will feature an entirely new protagonist and setting, especially considering the various endings of Cyberpunk 2077, which leave the fate of its central character V uncertain. My personal speculation is that V will not return as the main character in Cyberpunk Orion and will only be in the game as a reference, much like David Martinez from Cyberpunk Edgerunners was added into the game as a reference point around the Cyberpunk world. And for some reason, Morgan Blackhand has been in the back of my mind as some sort of focus for this new game, as either a protagonist or antagonist in some sort of way, and of course this is just speculation from me. But this character already has a ton of lore around him in the Cyberpunk universe and is only brought up in references so far. Maybe somehow the game features this character in some way, especially since they have a history with Johnny Silverhand. Of course, this is just speculation from me like I just said, but Morgan Blackhand seems like a cool character and would be very interesting to see in Cyberpunk Orion in some capacity. It's also possible that the game could explore other regions of the world beyond Night City, or take place at a different point in time. I don't see them completely ditching Night City since it's already completely built out for them. My guess would be that they would have Night City, but they also travel to other cities in the Cyberpunk universe. But we will just have to wait and see when CDPR gives us more information on Cyberpunk Orion. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the story for Cyberpunk Orion and what your speculations are. And what would be a notable shift in the development of this new game, it seems that CDPR might actually be developing Project Orion with multiplayer features, a significant addition to the Cyberpunk franchise. While Cyberpunk 2077 was originally intended to have multiplayer content, it was ultimately cut from the game's launch so the studio could focus on fixing the game after its rough launch and their development on the Phantom Liberty expansion. Project Orion is expected to incorporate multiplayer modes that could enhance the single-player experience, potentially even introducing a live service component akin to Grand Theft Auto Online. I honestly just hope that the main single-player story is just as big and impressive as Cyberpunk 2077, and the new multiplayer mode is a separate addition to the game and does not take away from the base game at all. But CDPR's decision to include multiplayer in Project Orion does align with its broader strategy for their future games, many of which will integrate online elements. It sounds like The Witcher 4 could do the same thing. This move, however, could possibly open up new possibilities for gameplay in the Cyberpunk universe, whether through cooperative missions, competitive modes, or an open world experience shared by multiple players. Whether the multiplayer aspects of Cyberpunk Orion will be an overall positive or negative impact on the game is yet to be seen, and who knows, maybe this will end up being cancelled as well, just like it was in Cyberpunk 2077. Personally, to me, it does sound kind of cool to see a Cyberpunk type Grand Theft Auto Online mode in the game, but honestly, I'm not too keen on any of the multiplayer or live service aspects that everybody seems so hellbent on adding to every single game nowadays. I like my single player narrative driven games just like that, a single player game that I can enjoy by myself with an amazing story and narrative to play through. But if they somehow can add this new multiplayer live service content without being intrusive and impacting my relaxed and chill single player experience, then have at it, I guess. But please, do not force this multiplayer live service always online BS on us if we don't want it. I know this one's probably going to be a hot topic for discussion, but let me know down in the comments what you think about the multiplayer and live service aspects that could possibly be added to Project Orion. As a part of CDPR's broader expansion strategy, the company currently plans to increase the size of its development team significantly. The Orion team, currently made up of about 60 developers at CDPR, will ultimately expand to around 120 by the end of 2025. This growth is critical for handling the ambitious scope of Project Orion and ensuring that this new game in the Cyberpunk universe meets the high standards CDPR has set for itself. And also, in addition to Project Orion, CDPR has several other projects in the works at the moment, including a new Witcher trilogy, a spin-off game codenamed Cirrus, and other unannounced projects, including their own original IP. These projects are being developed concurrently with Project Orion, but the Cyberpunk sequel is expected to be one of the company's biggest releases in the coming years. Their next release, of course, is The Witcher 4, which is probably in 2026, and then hopefully Cyberpunk Orion in 2028, 29, 30, somewhere around there. The original release of Cyberpunk 2077 was of course met with significant controversy due to its technical issues on last-gen consoles and even PC, and performance problems on most platforms. However, following multiple patches and updates, including the major Phantom Liberty expansion, the game has seen a resurgence in popularity, surpassing 20 million copies sold. With Project Orion, the Cyberpunk sequel, Project Polaris, the new Witcher trilogy, and Project Cirrus, CDPR aims to prove that the full potential of the Cyberpunk and Witcher universe is still to be obtained, and they plan to redeem its reputation as a top-tier video game developer. CDPR has also acknowledged that the lessons learned from Cyberpunk 2077's launch will be implemented in these new releases, and is determined to avoid similar pitfalls with Project Orion and their other projects. By using this new engine, Unreal Engine 5, doubling the size of the team's development team, and taking a more measured approach to the game's development, the company is currently laying the groundwork for what it hopes will be a major success. Project Orion represents the next chapter in the already impressive Cyberpunk franchise, and marks a fresh start for developers at CD Projekt Red. Hopefully, all of these new details in the game development commit to making a sequel that's vastly improved over the original game. And while fans of these games will have to wait several years for the game's release, the future of the Cyberpunk universe is looking brighter than ever. Following the massive success of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, the anime on Netflix, CD Projekt Red has announced plans for more animated projects set in the Cyberpunk universe. And while no specific details about a direct sequel to Edgerunners have yet been confirmed, the studio's interest in expanding the Cyberpunk universe through animation has sparked excitement among fans. Released back in September of 2022, Cyberpunk Edgerunners was a collaborative effort between CD Projekt Red, Studio Trigger, and Netflix. The anime received critical acclaim, earning an impressive 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and reignited interest in the game itself. It made player numbers skyrocket on Steam. Set in Night City, the series followed David Martinez, a young man trying to survive in the chaotic cyberpunk metropolis of Night City. The series' emotional depth, stunning animation, and connection to the Cyberpunk 2077 game made it a standout hit in both gaming and anime circles. While Edgerunners was designed as a standalone series, the demand for more content has been very high. Despite this, CDPR initially stated that there were no plans for a second season. However, recent developments suggest that more Cyberpunk animation is currently on the way, even if it's not a direct continuation of Edgerunners. During an earnings call in August 2024, CDPR's joint CEO confirmed that the company is definitely planning more animation projects related to the Cyberpunk universe. While the CEO did not provide specific details about these projects, he made it clear that fans can expect more animation content in the future. This announcement has reignited speculation about what from these projects might take, including whether they will focus on existing characters or explore new stories in the same universe. The confirmation aligns with CDPR's broader strategy of expanding the Cyberpunk franchise across multimedia formats in the future. Alongside video games, the company has plans to explore books, comics, and even a potential live-action adaptation, cementing its commitment to building a long-lasting multimedia brand with the Cyberpunk universe. The world of Cyberpunk 2077 is rich with stories, and anime has proven to be an ideal medium for exploring its gritty, high-tech setting. Cyberpunk Edgerunners demonstrates how anime could bring Night City and its characters to life in ways that even the game couldn't. As a result, fans and critics alike have been clamoring for more animated content. And of course, there are several potential directions a new Cyberpunk anime could take. CDPR could choose to explore a prequel, diving into the backstories of popular characters from the Edgerunners series. Alternatively, the studio might opt to follow one of the side characters in more detail, expanding on their narrative that they've already built. And of course, one of the other possibilities is that the next anime could explore an entirely new character and location within the vast Cyberpunk universe, offering a fresh perspective on the dystopian world. Beyond animation, CDPR is also working on a live-action project set in the Cyberpunk universe. While details on this project are still scarce, it signals that the company's ambition to continue growing the franchise beyond video games. A live-action adaptation in the Cyberpunk universe could open up even more storytelling possibilities, potentially attracting a wider audience. Additionally, with the development of Cyberpunk 2077 sequel Project Orion currently in the works, it's clear that CDPR intends to keep the Cyberpunk universe alive and thriving for years to come. Whether through games, anime, or live action, the future of Cyberpunk looks bright. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the possibility of new animated series in the Cyberpunk universe. With the latest patch 2.13, Cyberpunk 2077 has introduced AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 3 support, providing a significant boost to performance and visual quality for PC players. This update marks a critical improvement in the game's technical framework, allowing players to experience higher frame rates and enhanced graphical fidelity. This could also be the final update for Cyberpunk 2077. Most, if not all, of the development team has now moved over to other projects, and the final features being added to the game could just be some that they've already promised to deliver. But AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution 3 is a cutting-edge technology designed to upscale lower resolution frames while incorporating frame generation. This combination results in smoother gameplay and higher frame rates for players, particularly on hardware that may struggle with native high-resolution settings. By using this technology to generate additional frames, FSR3 provides a performance boost while maintaining sharp visuals for the player, ideal for expansive and graphically intense games like Cyberpunk 2077. Patch 2.3 for this game, now available only on PC, focuses on FSR3 implementation along with other technical upgrades. And while the update does not extend to console versions, cross-progression between PC and consoles remains functional. Players can enable FSR3 in the game's graphical settings under the Quick Preset section, with a separate toggle for FSR frame generation. In addition to FSR3, patch 2.13 introduces several other improvements to the game, including Intel Xe Super Sampling 1.3 support, the ability to enable DLAA and DLSS ray reconstruction simultaneously. Also, a new utilities tab in the settings was added where additions like HDD mode and AMD simultaneous multi-threading are relocated, as well as various other stability and visual fixes for Cyberpunk 2077. Despite winding down Cyberpunk 2077's development after the release of the Phantom Liberty expansion in 2023, CD Projekt Red has kept its promise to bring these new features to the game. This update comes after fans question whether the feature would ever be introduced to the game following the studio's shift in focus to other projects such as Cyberpunk 2077's sequel codename Orion and future Witcher games. The studio emphasized that support for both FSR 2.1 and FSR 3 would remain in the game, giving players the flexibility to choose between visual quality and performance depending on their preferences. This flexibility allows players to tailor the game's performance to their specific hardware setup, offering a custom balance between visual fidelity and frame rate. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all the latest Cyberpunk news. And if you're looking for something else to watch, click one of the videos you're seeing on screen right now. I will see you there.